I give the example of the book of a well-worn path through long grass. That's the comforting one, because you're not battling through long grass. But when you start to make a new path, it's going to feel hard, it's going to feel arduous, you're going to come up against a few brambles, and you're going to want to go back to that easier path because it's quicker to get there. But over time, it's going to wear down more and more and more, and the grass is going to grow up on that older path, and then that just becomes the new way.
We're beginning to realise that a lot of the health trends out there that are really promoted to women are actually very exhausting, and we really need to find better solutions. This episode is so helpful because it simplifies female health to what we really should be focusing on. Today I'm joined by Clare McKenna, presenter of Alive and Kicking on Newstalk and author of Would You Be Well? We talk about why your body has stopped responding to these trends, how to start listening to yourself again, and the simple shifts that bring your energy back without another rigid plan. Okay, really looking forward to this. Let's get into it. Today I am joined by Clare McKenna, presenter of Alive and Kicking on Newstalk and an integrative health coach and breathwork teacher. Clare spent years helping people cut through the wellness overwhelm and focus on what's actually supports energy, nervous system health and overall health in real life. So today we're going to talk about what really moves the needle when it comes to feeling well, especially in busy, demanding lives. Clare, you're very welcome. Delighted to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into this because of your book, Would You Be Well? Which I love that title so much. And really, as I was going through the research about you, I was like, okay, this is one person that's very realistic about it and not pretending that there's all these mad solutions. It's just, okay, here's real life. We're going to adapt that. And we're also going to realise that it's very easy to fall into the traps of that I suppose really deep stress get you into. Like we just talked before this about the long process of moving house, when a parent passes away, and all them stressors can lead you into a place of like complete overwhelm and almost shutdown. And the way you frame that, I think, is really good, that we can maybe start with how you approach all these massive life changes that are actually really stressful. Plus you have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and how you manage that yet stay ahead when a lot of people, I think, crumble in them kind of circumstances.
I think one of the biggest things for me, and I talk about it a bit in the book, when I was first working, I was working in marketing. So I kind of went into the office 9 to 5 work when I left college. And in one of them, the HR department used to send us on all these personal development courses. And there was something about that just really spoke to me. And back then, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't social media. So I hadn't really been exposed to a lot of things like that. There were a few books, but at 20, 21, 22, I wasn't really buying those. And I think they were called self-help books. Mm-hmm. And they were in like, a kind of a section of the bookshop or the library that people might kind of eye roll at, and maybe some people still eye roll at it now, but now it's called personal development, and it's a lot more in everybody's psyche. And I think that gave me the skill of taking an aerial view of my life on a regular basis and checking in with myself and saying, how are things, how am I, what's working, what's not working, and how can I support myself better? So I think I've always had that, and that can help me in the positive way, that I can see what's helping me and kind of lean into that a little bit more. But it also helps me to catch when things aren't going well, and when those big life stressors that you said. I mean, in the pandemic, my dad's dementia took a major tumble, my husband's business had to cease trading, and then eventually it had to close altogether. And then just the usual day-to-day running here, there and everywhere, trying to be everything to everyone. When that gets too much, at least I kind of catch it and I kind of have a bit of a check-in with myself. I'd say that's number one.
Yeah. And even the fact that you're a breathwork teacher, plus because you're in the media, you're seeing all the trends in real time, and you're seeing, okay, is that actually going to work in my life, or is this just another thing that's going to push me more into stress? Because it's so easy in that situation, especially the stress of a parent having dementia and all the other things with financial pressures, of saying, okay, I'm just going to jump on actually doing a load of extra things. But then it's very easy to just go into collapse. And I think we're seeing that so much more now. Less is actually more, but you have to find what your less is.
And I really cut out all of the trends and everything. I would have been an absolute stickler. I was constantly looking for somebody to tell me what to do, what to eat, when to eat, what exercise to do. I had all of the exercise videos. I was constantly reading, because the magazines were kind of the social media when I was growing up, and they were very much like focused around diet and exercise. So I used to really follow that. But when the internet and social media came in and the trends were growing and there was so much more information out there, I was constantly fueled by trying to be as healthy as I could possibly be. But what was healthy in inverted commas really grew. So I often give the example, I was throwing snacks that had paleo on the front into my shopping basket with no real idea of what that concept meant, and somewhere in the back of my mind I was like, yeah, we're cave people, we haven't really developed much more in our system since then, so yeah, I do need this bar now, and actually that's going to do me for lunch because there's probably a lot of calories in it because there's seeds in it, all this kind of spiraling when I think about it now, because it was just an overload of information on what I should be doing. So now I'm really more about the simple stuff and the pillars of lifestyle medicine around movement, nutrition, connection, stress management. And that doesn't mean I have these all down pat every time, but I don't really lean into trends. And even when I see things pop up on Instagram, I mean, I do take on certain information from experts, but I don't let it rule what I'm doing. I'm not looking for outside sources. I'm looking to me for the answers.
I think that's really interesting, though, talking about like your internal compass, because everything you said there, I would have no internal compass in my 20s. I was like, okay, that diet's going to be the one I'm going to do now because everyone else is doing it, and that influencer said it with conviction, so it must be true. And it's absolutely not checking in with yourself whatsoever and thinking, hold on, every single solution for every single woman is slightly different. You have to tailor it. But like that internal compass is like non-existent for so much people because there's so much external noise. You're like, okay, well, they look like experts that say things with conviction. Why am I listening to myself and my own body's needs? I think that's like the number one barrier to anyone being able to make any change. And we say, we're the experts of our own health, but how are we meant to be the expert if we don't ever listen to anything that comes up in the body because maybe we're too stressed, or we just place like massive gravity externally on people? That's something that really comes up for me.
And I didn't listen to my own body. Like I pushed through when I was really tired. I cut calories when I was hungry and I ignored that. And I didn't really tune in a lot of the time when I was following the trends. I just kind of went with them because this was what I was told to do. And I do really believe in leaning in for support. And I've had lots of people that have supported me over the years, from therapists to a life coach. So I do believe that, and I often say having a GP that you can trust is one of my number one health and wellness tips, and I have a fantastic one. But I remember going to her one time as well, and I was nearly seeking a magic pill. I was like, just give it to me, let me just take it once a day, I won't forget, I'm looking for better energy levels, better mood, and I just, I'm just finding it hard. And she was like, well, you've got 2 really small kids, you're sleep deprived, you're working full time, you're going to feel that way. And I remember her talking to me about supplementation, and I was like, well, I eat really well. And she's like, well, you need to eat X amount of oily fish every week, you need to eat X amount of leafy greens, and it can be really hard for us to be hitting those markers all the time. And it wasn't that the supplement became the magic pill, but I just think we're always looking for something that's just going to come and fix everything, and it's that one diet, that one expert, that one supplement, and everything's going to be fine. But really it's dialing it back, keeping it simple. And that's really what I learned. And I learned it by going on that journey myself. Like it was going from being completely overwhelmed to cutting it all back to finding what worked for me. And then that led to me training as an integrative health coach. And that really rubber stamped everything I'd been feeling personally. And then I wanted to sort of share that with more people and let them know that it's totally individual. It's going to be different to everybody. But I'm not trying to say, oh, listen to me, I've got it all figured out, I'm a guru over here with life all figured out. I'm just trying to empower people to start to listen to themselves and really mind themselves a little bit more. Yeah.
And I think with the piece of we're a lot of the time just externally looking for answers, and I'm so familiar with that, I was like, will I just take more ashwagandha? And will I just try, this next supplement? And I was always almost addicted to the chase of the fix. Because your nervous system is so used to that, okay, we're healing, what's next? I need to fix myself. And then I remember one day it really crashed down in my head where I was like, there's actually no one thing. This is like a slow, boring burn, Rebecca. Get used to this. This isn't going to be some manic answer that's going to come to you one day and it'll just hit you. And even now when I have conversations with people and they're looking for solutions, and a lot of people will throw away, say, oh, I wish I could just go on a GLP-1. And I think we are so programmed to just see things like that. It is really easy to see result, and then even that's actually a good example of someone that maybe is going on GLP-1 because they've tried a lot of solutions for fat loss, but then on the GLP-1 they are not really weight training or eating that healthy because the appetite's suppressed, and then after a year or two they come off it and they're like, why is the weight coming back on? And it's like no fault of their own, but understanding that there's no such thing as a quick fix ever.
I do think the increase in awareness around weight loss injections it does give a more compassionate view to anybody who may have obesity, and that we're looking at it now as a condition and a treatment rather than eat less, move more. You know, your laziness and your bad behaviour, in inverted commas, has led to this. And I think that was the messaging up until then. So I really do welcome that. And I know there's people, I mean, I have a friend on weight loss injections, and, you know, it's been really life-changing for her, and she's really thriving on it and really happy. And her motivation in it was to be able to run around after her kids, because she was finding that really, really difficult. But I really always say my number one, and I have it at the start of the book, one of my number ones is a healthy relationship with food and body. And you really need to sort of accept where you are. I think having that self-loathing, and I've had it myself, because, you know, I want to look in the mirror and see Kendall Jenner staring back at me. And when I don't have that, I'm kind of beating myself up, or after Christmas putting on weight, or however it might be. I just don't think that's any place to start on any kind of health journey. And if it's that self-loathing that's saying, oh, maybe I'll just try a weight loss injection, I think you want to make sure that your foundation is a lot stronger in your self-esteem, in your body image, and that relationship you have with food in your body. I had Johan Hari on Alive and Kicking, and his book is ironically called Magic Pill. And he battled with his weight for years and took weight loss injections, and the weight fell off. But he didn't have that emotional crutch anymore that food was to him. And he didn't have anybody to help support him in that. And he was talking about still going to all his favourite fast food restaurants, but having 4 bites of it and then having to throw it in the bin. And then that caused a whole lot of strange feelings in his mind. And it just, I think it has to come with support. I think we're only at the start of it now. And I know there's a lot of people doing amazing work where they really will help those on those journeys. But a healthy relationship with your food and body, and accepting where you are, and it's not something perhaps that you did wrong. There can be all kinds of reasons why we come off track, if you want to use those terms. It can be to do with genetics, it can be to do with trauma, it can be to do with the postcode lottery of your socioeconomic status. Like, there are so many things that were outside of your control. So I think that the conversation needs to be broadened a lot. But healthy relationship with food and body is nearly my number one, particularly for women, because I know we're so hard on ourselves and how we look, and to be bashing yourself over the head over weight is not healthy.
Yeah. Oh, when I think of that as well, like the nuance of so much things, when we look at just the topic of the weight loss injections, the nuance of it is there's some people that have debilitating food noise, that maybe have a whole host of issues, that food has been the only coping tool for a very long time. There's just like so, and there's also, my dad's on Ozempic for diabetes. Like, there's so many different people that come in, and again, so life-changing for so many, because maybe for the first time ever you're functioning without consistent food anxiety. But yeah, the foundation of the self-compassion piece that we were never really taught to foster properly as a woman, and you know, I probably so much disordered eating in my past and so much self-criticism all the time, and that was like took actually years to develop the skill of self-compassion. It's something you like, it's again something you slowly learn, but it's much easier to not do that and to just look for the next diet or the next really great supplement. So yeah, that's a lot to think about even now as you said that, because I think a lot of your past I would really relate to, in like really aggressively also almost searching for the answers and trying every answer, actually having the energy and motivation to try so many different things. And that's another category of people. Other people are nearly shying away from it because it's so overwhelming. Other people are deeply overwhelmed because they're in the thick of it and really trying everything. And it's like now understanding that we've never had more knowledge, so we've never been more confused, unless you really can go in internally and ask, like, okay, realistically, if I don't need to ask the opinion of anyone, I could probably tell myself the answer. What do you really need? Yeah, because I have a friend, and recently she was saying, I'm really tempted, like when we were in our mid-20s, we did OMAD, like that 1 meal a day thing. We did that together for ages and we were completely burnt out. And she was like, I'm really tempted to do OMAD again because I just haven't shifted the Christmas weight. And like my brain was just thinking, that would be so easy for me to get sucked in, even though I live and breathe everything about regulation. But because in my mind I was like, oh yeah, you know, that's a quick thing to do, that you'd see really quick progress. So it's very easy to get kind of manipulated by those around you, but by social media. And I remember like 2 years ago, I was scrolling and saw a woman, like I would have been vegan for 13 years. Now I still am mainly plant-based, but very much like, you know, flexibility. And she was like, okay, everyone has to eat a fully carnivorous diet. But the way she said it was so convincing that I was nearly second guessing myself, even though I had spent years, you know, training, studying, masters. But I still, for that moment, felt, oh, maybe she's onto something here because she has a lean body and she looks very healthy. So I think like really understanding how easy it is to get, even if your algorithm, Jesus, this is scary. When your algorithm changes one small bit, you look at that video for a little bit too long, you get pushed more of that, then you're biased. That's your new bias then. And I think it's so funny when you are with a friend and they're like, oh, look at my TikTok. And you're like, what are you watching? Like, why does your algorithm bring you these things? Because everyone's internal world of social media is so different. And you're actually like living and talking and behaving around that algorithm. That's giving you your information rather than reading the book or the newspaper article or listening to the radio. You're actually feeding off this very biased algorithm, which I find is something that we don't even really talk about that much.
I know. And, something I say is even once you start stripping it back like I did and start really listening to yourself, I think people, when they hear of anything like intuitive eating or just, throwing away food rules, they imagine they're just going to sit on the couch and eat 24 packets of biscuits in a row. And maybe that will happen on day one. I mean, people can have all kinds of disordered eating. Like, this is a really tricky area. And again, a lot of this has been fed to you and it has been outside of your control. But come to day 8 of that, you're not going to feel good in yourself mentally or physically. And, I think if that is the case for you, then you definitely need to seek the help of a therapist, a nutritional therapist. There's so many people now who link the two together to work through all of that. But ultimately, when you go on a holiday and, you're eating out every night and you're drinking wine at every meal and it's all really lovely. And then you kind of get to the end of it and you go, I'm actually nearly ready to get back to normal. Like, that is your body saying, listen, well, we get a few veg going on and a few early nights. Like, your body does start asking for it. But that energy of following new stuff all the time, and I know this because I was that person. One week I was paleo, the next week I was, vegan, and then the next week I was like, no, back to carnivore. Same as you. I'd see somebody, they looked lean. I was like, they know what they're talking about. How did they get there? That energy is so much more draining because it's new stuff. Like, we have a new puppy at the moment. It's all encompassing because it's new. And when I talk about like psychology of behavioral change, it's going to feel hard at the beginning because new means more energy. So when you're jumping from one thing to the other, that in itself is draining. And when I started out, because I really realised when I first started presenting the radio show, even though I was someone that was known for being into health and wellness and would have described myself that way, I actually thought, am I really healthy? I'm exhausted. I am completely overwhelmed. I feel burnt out. I don't know who to follow, what to listen to. And now I'm at the helm of this radio show. And what even is wellness? Because this was 7 years ago. So I was like, I keep talking about health and wellness. Can I even definitively say what that is? And one of the things I did was work with performance nutritionist Daniel Davey. And he said, just eat a balanced diet. That means have protein, carbohydrates and fats at every meal. Don't weigh anything, don't count anything, but just, make sure you need that. And when I started to eat that way, it was actually mind-blowing how much more energy I had and how much more headspace I had, because carbs were no longer bad, fats were no longer bad. I was no longer trying to assess things for how good they were to be to me, and I was no longer patting myself on the back and going, okay, you were good there and you did well there, oh no, you were bad there. Like, all that was gone. And now I don't even really think about it. It's not really something I think about, but it took time. I mean, we're talking that's now 6 years ago, but the area of gut health really spoke to me, and I wish I had heard about it sooner. I mean, people will see it slapped all over, every yogurt carton, and, protein and gut health are having a moment now. And it doesn't mean it's not rooted in science somewhere along the way, but we have to be really careful about what brands are just jumping on the bandwagon, and it's a marketing ploy. But people will be hearing it and they'll be thinking, what's it all about? But to simplify it, when I found out that to look after your gut health meant you would have better energy levels, better immune system and better mood, like, they're 3 really important things. If you've got your mood as well as it can be, your energy levels where they can be, and your immunity system working at its optimum, well, they are a real solid foundation for feeling good in yourself. Like, that's not even bringing weight into the equation. And gut health is all about what are you adding in. Like, yes, there are things you'd want to be taking out, but you're looking for diversity. You're looking for colour on your plate. You're looking for eating different 30 plants a week. And that can be really overwhelming. You feel like you might have to chomp through the rainforest, just hacking down leaves and eating them. But when you realise that grains are a plant, nuts and seeds are plants, obviously all the fruit and veg, herbs and spices, then you start to get a bit... I mean, I always think it sounds like I need to get out more, but I start to get excited. Like, I often give the example of the bowl of porridge. So, porridge is really good in itself. The oats are a good source of fibre, but it's just the one plant. But if you start throwing in a few seeds, a bit of frozen fruit, all of a sudden then you've got, like, if it's a mixed bag of frozen fruit, then that could be 6 more plants. Then you're doing a few chia seeds or mixed seeds. Again, now you're up to 13 plants, bit of cinnamon or mixed spice on the top. All of a sudden, before you have, got up from the breakfast table, you've now had 16 different plants. And just thinking about that and adding in spice and trying new veg and trying to mix things up a bit, I think that's a much better way of looking at it, rather than, what am I cutting out? I'm never eating sugar again. I'm a terrible person. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And that cycle. And that's where I started to move into.
And that is what really helped initially for me was the additional nutrient mindset, exactly what you said. Knowing that if you add the correct nutrients that are going to help your gut, you're going to have appetite regulation anyway. The whole idea of the appetite dysregulation I had for so many years with the binge restrict cycles was because, number one, I didn't have blood sugar balance because I wasn't eating enough variety, enough fat and different nutrient sources. I didn't have good gut health because I was so stressed from under eating, and the gut-brain connection is so strong. My gut was fairly depleted anyway. But if I took the mindset of the gut is you doing your regulation work and slowing down, but it's also you adding the nutrients into your diet. Like, even for me, the real food noise quietened and the sugar cravings went way down when I said, okay, what can I add to every meal? So I was eating really low calorie, very 80s diet of you're not allowed to eat fat, which of course drives sugar cravings. So when I added in the bit of fat and I started to think, okay, how can I add in the extra, to really surpass the 30 per week? And it became quite easy, because if I was making one curry that I batch made for the week, I'd make sure I had like 4 spices in it: garlic, onion, spinach, peppers, whatever. That alone was probably hitting 30. So, making it easy for yourself with the meal prep, understanding that we have to slow down to speed up. I think that's probably the biggest thing I see with anyone I work with, is slow down to speed up. When you, like you said, you stripped everything back, there has to be a level of, you obviously doing the breath work would really help that, slowing down to actually listen to intuition, to be able to stop and start in a really slow, incremental way, rather than like I was every week saying, okay, next diet, next supplement, next. You're never actually dropping into yourself to be like, okay, let's be logical, because when we're rushing, we're illogical. And I think like the logic only comes in when you slow everything down and be like, I was like hyping myself up some weeks, like, well done, you went on a walk today, or you, like, the smallest things I was giving myself credit for, because I was so burnt out that I had to change my baseline of actually what's like good health for me. And it was actually, okay, you actually need to do way less. And I think that trend is coming back now, where people are like, bragging about having a 5-minute morning routine rather than a 4-hour morning routine. They're like, oh, that sets me up for the day, and I feel pretty good after it. I'm not burnt out. It's not a crazy thing I have to follow. So I think there is a shift that way, but it's like has to be your own way rather than someone else's way.
Yeah, one of my favourite words is the word nourish. And I always talk about nourish yourself. And it's mind, body, soul. So you're nourishing yourself in the food you're eating and your attitude towards food in your body. And you're taking that time to figure out what's working for you. So for me, the morning works well because of the stage that my kids are at. I don't have, toddlers standing up in cots calling me, at 5 a.m. And then you're on, you're not going to sit down and take 5 minutes then. But I did an online group course recently, and I was talking about how I always start my day. 10, 20 minutes just for me. And even now, like, my husband does the breakfast, the lunches for the kids, and I come down after, and I kind of think, what, I earned that. I was lucky enough that breastfeeding worked for me. So I used to do all of those nights, mornings, get straight up. And also you tug at the heartstrings, sometimes as mums, we think no one can do it as well as we can. And I'd get up and do the kids. And now I'm quite happy to pass over that mantle. And I tottle on down at 8 o'clock and help with the last few looks for shoes or whatever. But I've been doing it, I'd say 7 years now, that I get up in the morning and I do a little bit of breath work, a little bit of a check-in. Sometimes I don't mean to be all evangelical. I'll just flick through Instagram and catch up on my WhatsApps, because I also throw my phone away about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. I don't bring it into my room. So I have stuff to catch up on, or I'm just interested in who or what the Golden Globes. But it's my time. And that is what sets me up for the day. Before I start giving to other people, I give to myself. And I will check in. And if I have just done half an hour, because you know how it's social media scrolling, the time just goes like that, I do think to myself, you would have felt better if you'd done breath work. And I don't bash myself over the head about it, but I go, no, tomorrow, let's get this back, because you feel calmer, you're less reactive, you're a bit more focused in work, you can think of the words you need a little bit more. But one of the women in the online course said, look, I can't do the morning time. I just keep thinking of the to-do list, and I can just see the things that need to be done around me. So what she did was the evening time after dinner, she would, sit with a cup of tea. There was no major agenda. You don't necessarily have to be burning Palo Santo or, getting your journal out. And if you do, that's absolutely amazing for you too. But she used to just sit down before she turned the telly on and just take 10 minutes just for herself. And I do think that's really important, because one thing they said to us over and over again when I was training as a health coach, and they were training us for kind of one-to-ones, but I kind of do one-to-many through events or, through things like this or the book. But they said everybody knows underneath it all what it is they need. They just need someone to hold space for them and support to get there. And that might not just be the health coach. As I said, that can also be the GP, another medical professional, a therapist. It could be, it takes a village, as they say. But I really do believe that we do know underneath it all what's working and what's not. And there isn't a magic wand. It's not easy to leave relationships that aren't working, jobs that aren't fulfilling us anymore. I get that, but we can still take steps to mind ourselves a little bit more within it. If we have a job we hate and a relationship that's not working, can we make sure that we get out once a week for a walk with our friend and have a vent, or not even, just have some fun in our lives? How are we balancing out all the stressful things in our lives? And the more we start to think like that, then the more we're going to, perhaps have our eyes open for, actually, do you know what? I saw they're looking for somebody in that shop down the road. Maybe I'll get out of the corporate world altogether. I don't know. I'm not trying to make it sound like, a rom-com, but you can take small steps to make change. And it's coming from checking in with yourself, minding yourself and supporting yourself as best you can.
That's a really good way to think of it. Like, there's lots of space holders, and you're also a space holder for yourself by taking the 5, 10, 15 minutes where you have mental rest and thinking. There's so many types of rest, and most people are getting, maybe 1 out of the 7 or whatever many types of rest there is frequently, and just thinking, okay, where can I slow down here? The intuition will come. I was reading something really interesting the other day, and it was like how to listen to your gut. And I've just found it such a good article, because I was thinking most people aren't listening to their gut. We're actually having to really mentally think and pro and con everything all the time, which is mentally exhausting. But just the thought of slowing everything down and holding space for yourself in that 5 minutes in the morning or that 20 minutes in the evening or whatever it is, you're going to get the answers. Your whole body's going to feel safer. You're not going to feel under so much threat that you're always in fix-it mode and there's some like defects and something wrong with you. And that kind of thinking, I think, especially in Ireland, like even in, your friendship group, when you're with the group of girls and they're like, oh, I have to fix that. Like, I haven't been good with food. Oh, bull, I'm a terrible, bad person. Like it really easily goes into that narrative. And I think that's something to be really mindful of. That again is something slowly you work on, and you really try and move away from anything that's really challenging that, be it the people you hang around with or the media you consume. That's what I love actually about listening to you with radio, because you're not going into that health space of you should be doing this, and if you don't, you should feel shame and guilt. And it's very much like, okay, everyone needs a different narrative that you have to create yourself, and I'm just facilitating what that is, and I'm not telling you what to do.
Yeah, on my first day presenting the show, I kind of did a little riff at the start about, this is me, this is where I'm at in life. And I said that there is going to be no shame and judgment on the show. I'm not here to finger wag at what's going into your shopping basket. And in fact, even though I've tried some incredible wellness endeavours, some of my best wellness experiences have been around a table with my girlfriends drinking margarita and eating pizza, and that is wellness. And I did believe in that way back when, before I even went on the big journey of exploration and studied as an integrative health coach. So I've always been really passionate about that, particularly with women, and as you say, that beating ourselves up. And something I meant to say when we were touching on it earlier, like, I will still have some of those thought patterns sometimes, as you were saying with the OMAD, and it'll come back, but you can catch those feelings now. And I catch it. So I've spoken in a couple of interviews about, in the lead up to my book launch there recently, it was at the tail end of Christmas, and it was January 15th, and I got really sick. I got a really bad head cold, so I couldn't make it to the gym. And I was like, oh God. And those amazing mince pies and Bailey's cream that I was having for breakfast over Christmas, I was looking forward to getting back to the gym, and will I be looking my best at my book launch? And I'm just like, hang on, Claire. I catch myself and I say, what are you we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's not important. You're going to look absolutely fine at your book launch. That's not what it's about. You're not well. You need to rest. And you're creating that inner dialogue with yourself. You're catching yourself. And I think that's really important. And I think with listening to your gut feeling, that will be what will initially come up for you. Now, sometimes when we say, how am I? As Irish people go, I'm grand. Asher, I'm grand. Aren't we so lucky that we're not in Palestine? Aren't we so lucky we're not in Ukraine? And yes, we absolutely are. And it's really important to be grateful for the really small things in life. But we all deserve to feel as well as we can for as long as we can. So if there's tweaks that need to be made in your life or you need more support, it's okay to tune into that and to accept that reality. So when we go again, now really, how am I? What's working for me? What comes up first will often be the truth. And then our logical brain kicks in and we go, no, sure, I can't leave my job. So how would I pay the mortgage? And what about the kids? And what about this? And no, I can't, leave the relationship. And again, I don't want to make out that these things are really an easy fix. But you just need to realise that your logical brain is going to kick in, and we also have our brain set to protect us all the time. So anything new, anything different, any big change, we're going to go, oh no, let's just stay here where it's comfortable. But I used to think that comfort zone meant positive, because comfortable sounds like pennies, pyjamas, fleecy socks, hot water bottle, cozy. But comfort zone can actually be quite a negative space, but because it's familiar, we stay there. It's comfortable for us, but it doesn't mean it's good for us. And I think when you start backing yourself and you start showing up for yourself and you do it with a more positive mindset and you go for that walk on the beach because it's going to clear your head, it's going to, just get a bit of fresh air into your lungs and you're going to feel better in yourself and you get back in the car rather than, you've let yourself go and you have to lose weight and you're a bad person, then you can get back in the car after even 10 minutes on the beach and go, God, fair play to me, that was great. I really enjoyed that. No, nice one. Rather than having it ticking over in your head over and over and over, I think that's a much better way to live. And you're more likely to back yourself in the bigger changes and believe that change is possible.
Yeah, I think what you said as well about you having that time with your girls, and if you're having the margaritas and eating the pizza, that's a lot more healthy than you sitting at home in a shame cycle of beating yourself up saying, I shouldn't be doing and eating and not doing enough exercise, whatever it is. That's less helpful when you're in that shame and guilt cycle. And it's very easy to get stuck in that familiar hell trap. And I think we're almost have a blind spot to it because the comfort zone thing of, this is where I feel the most regulated and calm, but I'm not doing anything out of that zone. But when stress comes along, that's not, can't stay in the comfort zone anymore, because if you're not practicing the discomfort of, just like exercise and doing things sometimes you don't want to do for the greater good towards your goals or whatever it is, that's just exercising the bandwidth. And you have to create more capacity for yourself, because I definitely was in that bubble of saying to myself, okay, I'm not going to go out often. I'm not going to go for the drinks anymore. I'm not going to eat out often. I'm going to stay in my comfortable little rigid exercise and meal plan bubble. And, that'll keep me safe. But then when stress hits and your life gets a bit stale and boring because you're not around your friends anymore and you're feeling a bit isolated, that's not the comfort zone anymore. But then the other side of that is how to create the new comfort zone when you keep expanding what comfortable is to you. And I think that whole idea is something that, again, I would never really talk and haven't really cognitively delved into that. Like, how do we expand the comfort zone so we're not just in this kind of rigid, mundane Groundhog Day cycle? Because that's definitely where I was.
Me too, but it's like learning a new language, because it's the language that you start to speak. And I wouldn't have it becomes the water that you're swimming in. I love that cartoon of the two fish swimming side by side, and one says, have you ever heard of water? And the other one's like, what's water? They don't know, they're just in it, swimming around in it. And you take all this messaging on and all of a sudden it becomes the language you speak. So if we were to stop speaking English and start speaking Italian, it's going to take us time. But then I love Kyla Cobbler, and she can speak several languages, and now she says because she was living in Barcelona for a while, she was saying she was dreaming in Spanish, and it takes a while for you to do that. But the best thing about our brains is neuroplasticity. We can change that language just over time. And I give the example of the book of a well-worn path through long grass. That's the comforting one, because you're not battling through long grass. But when you start to make a new path, it's going to feel hard, it's going to feel arduous, you're going to come up against a few brambles, and you're going to want to go back to that easier path because it's quicker to get there. But over time, it's going to wear down more and more and more, and the grass is going to grow up on that older path, and then that just becomes the new way.
Yeah.
Like even when you were speaking there about like, and I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to do that. Like I distinctly remember a time, it really is a vivid memory of going out for dinner in a few couples with some of our best friends. And we were sitting at a round table and, you know, there was all pizza and everything on the table and everyone was finished eating except me. And I give the example as well in the book about my kids, and because I would have had all of these, you know, no sugar, no this, no that to the kids. And if I could go back, I wouldn't have that kind of rigid, these are treats and this is, you know, if you eat your vegetables, you get the ice cream. I would have got rid of all of those food rules. But that when you know better, you do better. But when they would go to a birthday party, if I went to go and pick them up, all the kids would be out in the bouncy castle and my two would be still over at the sweet table. And me at that dinner table that night was like my kids at the sweet table, because I was eating the pizza and the chips and thinking, I don't know when I'm going to eat like this again. And who knows, my body was probably even starving because I probably had a protein ball for lunch that day and thought, well, that's excellent. And I'm going out for dinner, so I better save some calories. But I remember being like, I can't stop eating here. Everyone was like, you know, sitting back, chatting, very relaxed around food, and I wasn't. And I just remember banking that somewhere. But yeah, I think you don't realise you're living that way. I didn't have like an aha moment there and go, God, that's because of the way you're eating. But I just remember clocking it. But it becomes a new language that you're speaking over time. It becomes that new pathway, and it can be tricky at the start, but then it's just the way life is.
I think that's really helpful. The exact analogy you said of the new neural pathway. Over time, it gets worn down, so it's easier to go through it. And it's just a repetition game. It's the reps. And like that, I remember so many times with my group of college girls, and we'd all like eat our meals, and the girls, I'd be completely finished to clean the plate, and the girls would all have leftovers. And in my brain, I just wanted to eat all their leftovers, because it was that feast or famine scenario of like, oh my God, when am I going to get to eat this tasty food again? We're going back to basics straight away when we get home, back to the mundane, boring stuff. Like pre-COVID, we kind of still were operating from let's eat chicken and rice all the time mindset. And I think now that's changed. But then it was really like, of course, I really did think and label myself as just somebody with a really sweet tooth. And that's not at all the case now. I can take or leave dessert. Of course, sometimes I want to inhale it, but majority of the time I'm not as interested. And it's such a contrast, exactly like what you said, to when it's such a deep drive though, because when you are that little bit undernourished, even if you're eating kind of optimal calories, you're probably not eating optimal nutrients. So the body is searching for them extra nutrients. You know, it wants them. It wants to replenish and nourish the body. And I think that's one, again, that can get very lost in the messages, because at the end of the day, exactly like you said when you worked with Daniel, your body needs, it has requirements. If you don't give it that requirements, it's extremely clever at up and down regulating hunger. So like the upregulation of hunger for me was so intense that the year I actually did my master's in the Netherlands, I remember most of the time all I was thinking of was food. Like it was about 2015. So like all Instagram really was like pictures of recipes. And I remember all the time like saving and taking pictures of the recipes. And I wasn't even making them. It was just like constantly on my mind, because my body was like, you're not nourished. Let's bring this to the forefront of your mind. Let's regulate your hunger hormones, and then, you know, you'll be okay. So it's like trying not to go against nature, because you realize the body's really good at getting you back to a healthy place, but you kind of have to like work with that. You have to learn to go with that.
And I did a certificate in nutrition. I mean, I'm by no means a registered dietitian, but when you start to look into the science of it and you start to go into how the body is a series of systems, and those systems need nutrients to function at their best, that's it in its simplest form. And our bodies are incredible. And when everything is working at its optimum, that's when we feel good. That's when we have energy. That's when we're more likely to go for that walk, to, you know, ask for support, to speak up for ourselves, all of those things. And I just think as women, we're just told, cut calories, cut calories, cut calories, you know, cut your waist size. And even now, my daughter's 12, so I think it's a better world for her. I think there's a lot more role models. There's a lot more, even I'm happy to see walking up Grafton Street that there are mannequins in the windows that are, you know, a mix of sizes, that, you know, there isn't just one body ideal. But I still think we are holding one type of body as the best, regardless, because I talk as well in the book about body neutrality over body positivity, because there's still this sentiment, oh God, aren't they great to be getting out there in a bigger body? And oh, isn't it great to see Lizzo jumping around like that in her bigger body? It's still like, you look great for your age. It's one of those kind of side compliments. So I just think healthy relationship with food and body, nourishing yourself, mind, body and soul, and trying to dial down that self criticism all of the time. I mean, even when it comes to exercise and moving your body, when I became a mum, I did start to see the gym as something very different. When I go to the gym, I love the gym. I do say, look, find movement that works for you. If swimming, dance is your thing and you don't like the gym, don't go, even though weight-bearing exercise I know is important. I think movement is number one. I would stop thinking, and I must fill those bottles and I must grab that, and then don't forget that constant ticker tape that we have. And even if you're not a parent, I think we constantly have a to-do list going. Whereas if you're in the gym, all I was thinking of was 6, 7, 8, 9 as I was lifting the weight, and it became mindful, and it became less about growing muscle, getting lean, losing weight, and more about time for me to just switch off. And I think just changing the narrative of why we do these things, that we do these things because they make us feel good, not because we have to, makes it a lot easier to stick with it.
Yeah, and that, like, for a good while now, good many years, especially since becoming a mother, for me, I just completely associate exercise, and I've always exercised a lot, but now the narrative is it's for my mental health. I barely even see it anymore associate with physical health or appearance, because it's completely, as you say, a mindful activity, and it's something for the mood and all the chemicals in the body to work well. So it's very different to how I would have framed it in my 20s, which was purely for aesthetic reasons. I would have overtrained a lot. So yeah, there's so much there that I think a lot of people will very, very much relate to, but definitely the piece of finding the movement that's more relevant to you as well. That's so nice. You can hear the seagulls, I think, in the background.
That's how for you.
Nice.
And I watched the documentary with the guy, Brian Johnson, is that his name? And he's the billionaire who's now offering himself up for science. Yeah. And I could see how he was living. Now, it's not how I would want to live. No. But I can see he compares himself, you know, when he was overworking, he was stressed, he had a relationship that wasn't working for him, he was going through a separation, he was drinking a lot, he was eating badly, he looked bloated. I mean, forget about having this lean body ideal. He didn't look happy in himself. And now he's like fitter than he's ever been, he's stronger than he's ever been, and he's got this meaning and purpose in his life. Yeah. And I know it can feel really evangelical almost. You're being a good person and you're sticking to the plan, and it can get really like that. But I still feel he looks like he's missing a lot of fun in his life. I mean, he's stopping eating at 11 o'clock in the morning. He is completely round the clock thinking about this. There isn't any fun. There isn't any margaritas in the sun and pizza. You know, there isn't anything like that. Now, he's on a very different path, but I remember watching him and I could see the buzz he was getting out of sticking to this rigid plan. And I just want people to know you can actually get the same kind of buzz out of sticking to a non-rigid plan. Like, I feel really good about myself. I feel really good in myself, and I don't have loads of rules. And that makes me feel good because I'm minding myself and I'm caring for myself. And I think that trumps that strict regime, because on that there's so much room for error and so much room for, oh, well, you didn't do great that day, and why did you do, you know, and when all that's gone, it's so much better.
And I think there's two things there as well. Like, the male physiology can just about keep above board with that, but the female finds it really hard. We need that cyclical, flexible nature, otherwise we burn out quicker because our stress tolerance. But also, you hitting something so important there about, you know, say we're looking at trying to improve our relationship with food or ourself. You can't do that unless you're getting joy and excitement and nourishment from, you know, friendships, activities you like, doing the colouring book, the reading. Like, for me, I was working with an emotional eating coach for about 6 months. And one day I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I was thinking, I just need to distract myself with, you know, going for a walk and doing all these other things to distract myself from the food. But I was like, why am I so, now that I'm eating quite a nourishing diet, why am I still emotionally eating? And it really was like this penny drop moment. You're not having very much fun. Like, you're not doing the things you used to do regularly. And of course, you're going to go to something that is fun for you in that moment, which is food. And once I clicked onto that, it was like this moment of, you can't be healthy without, you know, you can't be mentally or physically healthy without fostering the other things we don't associate very much with health around, you know, the friendship, having good crack, like having fun with your friends. There's a lot of Americans here, and I've said this before, crack being fun. But, you know, having that is part of you doing the healthful behaviours, because the body isn't always looking for the cheap dopamine. You're satisfied with, okay, I've had a good conversation today, I've had a bit of a laugh with someone, I've laid down for a few minutes and just rested my body and mind. Like, you're bringing them simple things in so that you're actually able to make the changes with, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym because I'm not so stressed that I feel I have to do the rest of the to-do list, like that woman you mentioned saying, oh my God, I just can't do the morning routine because the to-do list. But I would have done that saying, oh, I just can't go for the walk now, I'm too busy. Or I just can't go for X now, I'm too busy. But when you have a bit more fun, you're a bit calmer, you're doing more things that are filling up, your cup, as they say, it becomes more easy to make the right choice that you're like, yeah, I know I need to do that now. But definitely the piece of bringing in more joy into your life is a wild one to think about. Whenever I talk about it to friends, they're like, oh, do I need to start gardening or golf? Or, do I need to do some kind of, get into some mad new area? Do I need to become a shaman? Like, we're always saying, what do we need to do to find a bit of fun? But again, it's like, there's no one thing you have to do. It's just finding a series of little things every week that you're like, okay, I'm going to take a bath on Wednesday night. I'm going to go for a walk with my friend on Friday evening. Like, that's enough. It doesn't need to be this mad expedition of every year I'm going to solo go across the Atlantic in my sailboat. Like, it doesn't have to be extreme things, but I think we do kind of think that we have to have this mad hobby or special interest in order to keep us happy. But it's just like rolling with new little things all the time.
And I think that's so important. I think that's the most important point. I separated the book into mind, body and soul because it's so much more than diet and exercise, and that's where everyone's focus goes. And they are two really important things. And as women, as we've just discussed, that is something we really need to pick apart. But there is so much more to wellness than, what's on your plate and how much are you lifting in the gym. It is those fun moments. And that's why, like, for those who are not Irish, would you be well is something we say here in Ireland. And we kind of say it with an eye roll, like, would you be well if, the neighbour next door has, notions, as we say. Yeah. Or people say, would you be well with all this wellness stuff? And, like, I get it. And
are you cracked?
Yeah, are you cracked? Like, are you mad? And people will say to me, oh, you're into all that wellness stuff, Claire, are you? Oh, that's not really for me. As if it's some mad island that only a few people go to. But wellness is literally for everybody. It's those small little things we do every day that keep us feeling good. And, if you're not a yoga person or you're not, into full moon circles, then that's okay. But people are getting their wellness from that. And, I go into a good bit about spiritual wellness because for some people, spirituality means religion and they get a huge amount out of religion. But particularly here in Ireland, we've got an understandably fractured relationship with organised religion. And I think sometimes people are throwing out the baby with the bathwater because there are so many things like ritual, ceremony, reflection, community that were brought about by the church. And now that's why people are finding their tribe, as they say, at the beach, going for the sea swim. And the sea swim is amazing and doing something you think you can't and, getting all that benefit of being in nature. But quite often it's the connection with the people on the beach and the sharing and the coffee afterwards and the catch up. And, when you come back from either a date night and you go, Jesus, that was great for us, or, a night out with your girlfriends or your guy friends, and you say, geez, that was good for the soul. That's spiritual wellness. So it has to be fun. It has to be enjoyable. And it has to be coming from a positive place that you're doing it because you want to feel good.
Two things you reminded there. I would love to go to a Kyla Cobbler gig. That would be a great laugh. And the second one, if that full moon ceremony, I'd be up for that too. But thinking like, if you find the one or two, three little things and you can rotate them a bit, they're very, very simple. That's what it's all about. And I think we can overcomplicate it.
And I went to my first full moon circle, God, it's probably 6-7 years ago now. And a friend said to me, would I go to it? And I'll go to anything like that, wellnessy, anything along those lines. I love anything like that. And she said, look, my friend goes, she says it's great. There's a bit of breath work. There is a bit of chanting. I was like, not mad on chanting. And then we all get in the sea. And I thought, feckin', I'd love to see her anyway. So off we went. And I was thinking this was pretty niche. Now, again, like wellness things are growing at a rate of knots. But it wasn't even where it is now. And we went up to the sand dunes, and I'm not joking you, there was about 300 people there. It was like a festival. The sand dunes were packed. People had like their own fairy lights for when it was about to get dark later. There was a real sense of camaraderie and community. There was one guy leading it in the middle, and people were hugging him, and he was leading us in breath work and really centering, and he was saying really kind of positive affirmations, like you're powerful, more powerful than you believe, things like that. And he was very motivational. And then everyone went down, got into the sea. The moon came up like the sun does. It rose up from where we were. We were chatting to strangers, and then you go back to your mat, have a hot drink, and he had a fire in the middle. And people hung around, and I was so blown away by him. His name's Paddy Douglas, and I invited him to come on the radio show. And he said to me that several people have come to him and said that it has saved them. That circle has saved them wherever they were at in their lives. And there may have been other supports they needed to lean on, but just finding something. We're so isolated now a lot of the time, and to just go and feel that sense of community, even that sense that you feel at a comedy gig or a concert where you're all together, you're all singing the one song. Like, I think that's really important, so that we get out and find a tribe and push ourselves out of our comfort zone. Join the hiking group, go one Sunday. So what's the worst that can happen? You just walk along, get back in your car and go, God, that group's not for me. That literally is the worst that can happen. But I do think it's really important.
It is, and there's so much to be said for the understanding of that collective energy, how important that is. Like, I really want to go to a Joe Dispenza event just to feel.
I'll go with you.
Do you know what? I actually booked it for, now you're locked in, for Basel, but they cancelled the flight. So me and my friend cancelled the ticket, but I'm really on a hunt to find that kind of collective group energy to go, because like I went to a sound therapy night the other night, blown away how important that was, just the sound and everyone kind of on the same wavelength, the energy in the room. I'm going to a growing day in April with Coleman Power, just like trying to find all these little days here and there. I have a friend and he's really into constellation therapy. He's like, do you want to go someday? I was like, absolutely. Like, if that was a few years ago though, I was like, don't be daft, I'm not going to any of these things. But now you're so right, like there's a big resurfacing of all these things, because even like the day I went to Jerry and Miriam Hussey's event, I was on a high for like a week after. Same when you go to anything where there's lots of like-minded people in a room. I had a conversation with a woman that day at that event, and we were bawling, crying to each other. Never saw her again. Therapeutic. Yeah. But it's so funny, like on them days, how much they charge you. They basically, that's what I thought recently. I was like, how am I going to like charge? Like a battery, what can I do? And it's like them days, the days you're switched off from your phone. All them things are health. So yeah, you've actually given me a lot to think about today, and I'm going to try to find that Douglas man as well.
And you take time away, you take time for yourself, because life is so busy. And it's not that you're going to these events and like everything that we said up until now about your relationship with food and body, about the food you're putting on your plate, about moving your body, about connection, about all of those things are important. And these are just an add-on. And these are just moments for you to be like, meeting like-minded people, filling up your cup. And I love to learn. I think to learn is to grow, and it really gives you so much energy. I love when Mel Robbins said, it was a real like stop the car nearly moment. She said, when we're hungry we eat food, when we're thirsty we need to drink, when we feel stuck we need to learn. It's because we're not learning, there's nothing new in our lives, and we all get that feeling, that low energy, that meh feeling. And I know there'll be people listening, and I know you're one as well, Rebecca, like single parents struggling to put food on the table. They're like, okay, well, where am I going to get to do this big masters? But it's not, it's just trying something new. There are loads of free events going on. It's just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, with the idea of making yourself feel good and charging yourself up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved that conversation, Claire. Where can people find you, and where, if you're not in Ireland as well, can you find the book? I meant to ask that too. Yeah, where can people listen to you?
The book is on Amazon. It's called Would You Be Well? And I am on Instagram. I spell Claire without the I, so I am Clare McKenna Presents.
Fab. Thank you so much. I loved that conversation. I'm going to take notes myself after.
Me too. And I'm definitely coming to Joe Dispenza with you.
Great. Can't wait. Thanks. See you soon. If that conversation resonated and you want to do this work in your own life, the Rebalance membership is where that happens. Inside the membership, we put all the pieces of the regulation puzzle together so that long-term sleep and fat loss become your new reality. You get a monthly 21-day challenge, a daily short video, a live group call with me every month, and access to all my resources and a community of women doing the work alongside you. The membership is €37 a month, and the link to join is in the show notes. Hopefully I'll see you in there.